What's up, everybody? I'm Guy. This is my Comic Talk YouTube channel, and today I want to talk about whether or not you should A, get your comic books graded by CGC or any other grading company, and B, whether or not you should buy graded comic books. And I guess tangentially also whether or not you should collect graded comic books. Now, before we jump into that discussion, I want to remind you guys that this book, The Amazing Spider-Man number 328, is my giveaway item of the month. At the end of September, I will be giving this away to one viewer, so make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that notification icon so that you get notified when I announce the winner of the giveaway. And yeah, give me a thumbs up on this video, and yeah, just subscribe and watch. I would really appreciate it. So I want to attack this idea of collecting CGC books, buying CGC books, and whether or not you should get your raw books graded by CGC. And that's like a lot of different things to unpack in one video. So first, I want to talk about whether or not you should get your raw books graded, because I think that's the easiest one for me to nail down. And of course, before we jump into this at all, let me just put out this disclaimer to say that, far be it from me to tell you or anyone else how to enjoy this hobby. Do whatever you want to do whatever makes you happy. This is just what I do, and I guess I recommend it, but you don't have to agree with me. But I just want to kind of plant that seed to give you some ideas if you're not sure about how you want to approach the aspect of this hobby that is graded comic books. So, first things first, should you get your raw books graded? I'm going to say, for the most part, no, with a few exceptions. By and large, the way that I approach comic books is I want to pick them up. I want to open them. I want to look at them. I want to read them. And I want access to them. So I don't want the majority of my comic book collection sealed away hermetically and completely inaccessible to me, other than basically being able to look at the front cover or flip it over and look at the back cover. That's not what I'm after. But there are exceptions, and there are reasons why you might want to have your books graded. First and foremost, I think this is the easiest one, is if you're going to get a book signed at a convention and you want to, have that signature be authenticated. If you decide to sell that book down the road, you can't really get much for a signed book that isn't authenticated. So if you want a signature series book, by all means, get that book signed and then have it immediately graded and encapsulated. It validates the signature, and I think that that is actually important for those types of books. The next reason is that, and this one's tricky for me because I would never really want one of these books, but if you do you want to have a book that is so very fragile that you can't safely handle it in your collection? And again, for me, the answer is no, I don't really want those books. But a lot of people have the saying of a low grade is better than no grade. I disagree, but if you don't, and you want to have like a 0.5 or a 1.0 or a 1.5 graded book that's, really old and really important, let's say X-Men #1 as a 1.0. If you were to pick that book up and open it, it might literally fall apart in your hands. In that case, yeah, having it graded and encapsulated makes sense for safety reasons. I would say, sure, get that book graded, get it encapsulated to keep it safe. But by and large, again, me personally, I don't want to own books that are encapsulated, and I don't want to own books that are so fragile that I can't handle them. I don't agree with that saying of, oh, low grade is better than no grade. I just don't want the book. I mean, sure, if someone gives it to me, but if I'm paying my money, I'm not going to buy a 1.0 X-Men #1. I'll accept the fact that that book is too expensive for me to afford in a condition that I would enjoy, and I'll never own that book, and that's okay. But if you are the type of person that says, like, I just want to have any copy of that book, and it doesn't matter what condition it's in, sure, get it graded so that it is at least retained or protected, and the condition doesn't even get worse. That makes sense. Finally, I think the third reason why you might get one of your raw books graded is if it's worth more graded and you intend on selling it soon. By all means, get it graded and maximize the profit on that book. Be sure that you are correct in the grade that you expect it to get before you send it in, because let's just say and I'm going to make numbers up. I was going to say I'm going to pull them out of the thin air, but no, I'm going to make numbers up to illustrate the point. Let's say you have a comic book. I don't know. Let's say it's Hulk number 340, the Todd McFarlane Wolverine cover. There are grades of that book, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 maybe, where like it doesn't make sense to get it graded because you might actually get more money if you don't get it graded. And the difference in price between a 7 and a 7.5 and an 8 and maybe even an 8.5 is negligible. So be sure that the book that you're sending in is actually going to get a good enough grade to justify the cost or the expense of grading and the time that it's going to take, and that you're actually going to make a significant amount of money more than if you just sold it raw. People make that mistake all the time. Another example is people send in brand new modern books, not even really like important modern books, just any old random modern book, and it comes back a 9.2. I mean, you just wasted like $30 or whatever the grading costs to get a book graded a 9.2. That's silly. If you're not sure it's going to get a 9.8 and it's just a random modern book, don't send it in for grading. That's silly. It's a waste of money. In my opinion, again, far be it for me to tell you what you should do or how you should enjoy this hobby. Maybe you just like having your books in that little plastic case, in which case, by all means, you do you. But I think that if you're going to sell a book and you want to maximize the profit, it makes sense to get it graded so long as you're pretty good at grading yourself and you're sure you're going to get the grade that you think you're going to get. Outside of those 3 reasons, and I'll do a quick recap, we're talking about signature series books, getting them graded, sure. Extremely low-grade books that are extremely valuable, that might literally fall apart if you handle them and you just want to encapsulate it for safety, sure, get those graded. And finally, if you're going to flip a book and you want to maximize the profit and it makes sense to do it with that book, get it graded. Otherwise, no, I don't really see the point in having your books graded or my books graded. You do whatever you want. Again, I don't see the point in having my books graded if they're just a part of my collection. I can't access them. I can't read them. I can't look at them. They're more difficult to store. I forgot to mention that. Like, there's just, for me, no upside to it. So yeah, I guess the moral of the story is don't get your books graded unless you meet one of those few specific reasons to do it. Now, the next question is, should you buy graded books at all? And for me, for the most part, I try to avoid buying graded books unless 1 or 2 things are true. Unless like the price is better or at least equivalent to what I would pay for a raw version of that book. And especially if I'm buying it online and I don't trust the seller's, and I rarely do trust the seller's ability to adequately relay what the book's grade is if it's a raw book. So for example, here, I have an example on my desk. This is a copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 299. I wasn't sure if it was 298 or 99 because I have both of them. This is 299. This book was, and you can see I saved it in the back of the bag and board, this was a graded book. It was a 9.2. I don't go after particularly high grade books. I don't care if this is a 9.0 or a 9.2 or even an 8.5, and I'm certainly not going to pay premiums for a 9.6 or a 9.8. I just want a nice copy that I can, enjoy. I couldn't find a nice copy that I was confident was going to arrive in the condition that the sellers were advertising. There was always bad pictures or bad scans of the books, or a seller that says, I'm not a professional grader, look at the images and decide for yourself, et cetera, et cetera. There was no copy available when I was shopping for this book where I was sure I could get it raw and I was sure that it was going to come in the condition that I expected. Like, I certainly don't want this book in a 9.8 grade, but I also don't want this book in a 4.0 very good sort of condition either. I wanted something nice. I wanted, very fine, plus or minus. That's what I like to collect. I like upper mid-grade comic books. I don't like super high-grade comic books, and I don't like super low-grade comic books. This is like where I live. So since I couldn't find a raw copy that I could see the images of really, really well and decide for myself, or that I could really, really trust the seller to give me an accurate grade, I found this, again, graded 9.2. And I bought that. So at least I knew I was getting what I was paying for. And then when it arrived, obviously, I cracked it out of its CGC slab and I can open it up, I can read it, and I can enjoy it. So, the moral of the story, I guess, that I'm getting at is, should you buy graded comic books? Sure, if it makes sense to. If the price is right and there's not a raw alternative, I'm going to buy a CGC graded book. I absolutely will. But as soon as I get it, I am taking it out of the slab and I'm putting it in a bag and board, and it's going in my long boxes with all the rest of my books, or I guess technically short boxes. I don't do long boxes anymore, but I digress. It's just going to be a part of my collection. It's going to be a raw book once I get my hands on it. All right, guys. Well, there's my 2 cents on CGC and graded comic books in general, whether or not you should be getting your comic books graded and whether or not you should be buying graded comic books. And again, I'll say it one last time, far be it from me to tell you how to enjoy this hobby. Do whatever you want to do. It's just the way that I enjoy this hobby. It's what I like to do. And I thought I would share it with you. There's going to be a lot of people, I think, that are going to say, like, what's your beef with comic book grading? What's your beef with CGC? And I don't have a beef with it. Like I said, I'll buy comic books that are graded if I find it for the right price, and I will get my comic books graded if there's a reason that justifies getting it graded. So no, I don't have a beef with CGC specifically. I just, or graded comic books specifically. I just don't like the aspect of this hobby, and in particular YouTube and comic book YouTube, that is just completely fixated on value and speculation and what's this book worth and what's it going to be worth and what's going to happen when this movie comes out, and all of that crap. I hate that aspect of comic books and of YouTube, comic book YouTube. That's why I started my channel, because I don't want to focus entirely the dollars and the cents of comic books. I want to spend more time focusing on characters and stories and artists and writers and creators. And of course, the value / price always does factor into it, because this stuff isn't free. Some of it is quite expensive, but I just don't want that to be the emphasis of what I talk about here, because it's not what I like. And since I don't really like that stuff, there's not a lot of reason for me to really put a bunch of money into graded comic books. I want to be able to pick them up and hold them and open them and look at them and enjoy them. And I just don't feel like I get that entire experience with graded books. So for me, it is something that I will avoid when I can, but I don't completely shun it out of existence. There is a time and a place for graded books. I understand that. All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap this one up for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do subscribe. Also hit the like button, the bell notification icon, and leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think about graded comic books. I would really appreciate hearing from all of you. Don't forget that I am doing monthly giveaways on this channel, and the first giveaway is this Amazing Spider-Man number 328. That will be given away at the end of September. I know right now it's August 27th at the time of this video. Since I started this channel so late in the month, I'm not going to do a giveaway when I've only got like 10 subscribers. That's silly. But subscribe, and you will be eligible to win that comic book. But you do have to leave a comment in the announcement video, which I will announce at the end of September. So make sure the notifications are turned on so you don't miss that video, or you might miss your chance. But yeah, other than that, I want to say thanks again. And yeah, keep on collecting, keep on comic booking. Until the next one, bye now.